What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Founder Academy. I am Mark, the FUT Founder, and I want to start today's video actually by thanking everyone. I was looking at my metrics on YouTube, which I try not to look at too much just because I'm a smaller channel. I don't spend a whole lot of time on it, but, with COVID going on and, just my interest in FIFA, I wanted to really kind of bunker down and start dedicating a little bit more time to this, and I've actually seen some growth. I didn't do it with the intention of growing the channel to a huge audience, which it obviously is not quite there yet, but putting more time and effort, I'm starting to see a little bit of results, which has been really nice. So I want to thank everybody who's been the loyal fans that have been with me since day one. You guys know who you are. And then to a lot of the new fans, I've seen some comments and stuff on it, and I really appreciate all of that stuff. So if you guys aren't already following, if you're new to the channel, please, like the videos and comment on anything or any questions you guys have. And if you guys can, please help share it because it just goes a long way with your audiences. So thank you, everybody, for all your support. So like I said in a previous video, I wanted to address any questions or concerns people have. So I had an interesting comment on video number 7, which was from Mogerson. So obviously, as a side note here, you guys know that I've made that video on handicap. I think it was like a year and a half ago or something like that. And it's easily been my most popular video on the channel. So people just have a million questions about handicap scripting and people's frustrations with FIFA in general. So I made a video explaining it, which you guys will see at the end, or if you haven't watched it already, go on to the channel. It'll probably get surfaced at some point because it's easily far and away my most popular video. But this comment actually came in relation to that video, but it was on one of the videos from the Founder Academy. So Moog wrote, "I saw your video on handicap and thought it was great. Sums up everything I've theorized about the game. Since EA debunked DDA and caused those people to drop their lawsuits against them last year, does this mean anything? From my personal experience playing FIFA 22, I thoroughly believe that handicap still exists and is extremely strong, regardless of what EA claims. Is it possible they are lying or are simply using a system called something else and therefore they can say there's no DDA in Ultimate Team?" I've never been a conspiracy theorist, but what I've seen and experienced is far beyond my imagination. Last weekend league, I blew a 3-goal lead at halftime on 3 separate occasions. I'm not a great FIFA player, however, what happened to me and the way it occurred seemed too extreme to be organic. In every instance, my team felt superhuman in the early stages of the game. Everything just felt smooth and right. Then all of a sudden, nothing was going right. The other team was dominating me and I had no answer. No change in tactics worked either. My defenders were literally not defending any passes, etc., etc. It was weird. I wasn't even mad. I was just shocked because the game felt like I just suddenly had no chance. I know it's off topic of the video, but I'm interested in your thoughts on this. In my heart, I want to believe that handicap doesn't exist, as I'd rather have my failings be as a result of my own mistakes as opposed to the game's handicapping me. Unfortunately, my brain is telling me that something that happens so consistently is not a placebo. To be honest, I'd rather quit the game entirely if I know EA are artificially influencing outcomes. That's morally wrong. Anyways, good work. You deserve more subscribers. So first of all, Moog, I'd like to thank you for the kind words. So there's a lot to unpack in that. So I'm not going to spend the whole video dissecting handicap. From what I'm seeing here, your experience is very common from what I've seen, even with my own gameplay. But realistically, people that are more casuals, which it sounds like you are, like you play it enough to understand the fundamentals of the game, but probably not on a level that's kind of what I'd consider a hardcore. So realistically, one of the reasons that people have gotten so frustrated with Ultimate Team is because there's so many factors at play. So in a real basic fundamental way of describing this, the game has what's called sliders in it, right? So if you go play NBA 2K, for example, which I was playing last night, really fun game, and you're playing against a computer, you can just change the difficulty of the game and you can change the sliders. You could go in and say like, hey, I want my jump shots to be hitting more consistently, so you can move the slider up. And then the computers, you can move it down. However, when you're playing online, you can't change the sliders because you're playing a human being. So there's a lot of challenges to this because obviously you're at the mercy of like 20 other computer controlled players when you're playing against somebody else because you guys can only control one of each. However, playing against the computer can be frustrating, or against a computer. Playing against another person can be frustrating because the computer influences what's going on with the other players, even on 50-50 challenges. So it's called dynamic difficulty is kind of what you're experiencing. So let's say in your game where you're up in a 3-goal lead. I've always said 3-goal leads are the worst because that's when you see those swings and the sliders happen. So let's say fundamentally you guys both start your game equal and your sliders are on the same par, right? You're at 50%, he's at 50%. Once you start scoring goals, my personal belief is that once you hit 3 goals, if it's too early in the game, like if you score 3 goals in the first 20 minutes and you're just dominating your opponent, it starts nerfing your sliders. So it starts pulling back your shot accuracy, your pass accuracy, and it gives your opponent a little bit more boost in their sliders, right? So their players will get a little bit stronger. However, the factor that people don't take into consideration when they're casuals is the amount of things that you can do to influence the gameplay by using custom tactics. So if you're not using custom tactics, which a lot of people don't understand custom tactics, a lot of the casuals don't understand it, they just play on balance. They don't touch anything. So let's say in that instance you're up 3-0 and your opponent actually knows what he's doing in terms of influencing those. He can go ultra attacking and his players just become like bees. They just go hyper aggressive. They're in your face. They're ultra attacking. You feel like you have no time on the ball and you're just suffocating. So you start turning the ball over because your players start feeling like they're under duress and they don't have that composure stat. If you're using basic cards, they don't have the skill levels to be able to work out of the press. Like when you watch a lot of online streams and stuff, you'll see a lot of players like the pros, they're able to work their way through those because they're so talented in terms of being able to control their players, and they have such high-rated players, which goes back to that kind of pay-to-win element to the game. But like if you have the Ronaldos and the Messis and the Neymars and the Mbappes, they can wiggle their way out of those challenges. Whereas if you're using a Jordan Henderson, let's say, you're probably going to be in a lot of trouble if you're trying to work your way out of those challenges. If you've got a player that's coming at you with a full press, it's very tough for you to be able to get out of that press because those players are so aggressive and they're so in your face that you really can't do anything. So there's a lot of factors that affect the game in game. I think organically the way the game is coded is if you're really dominating your opponent, it starts nerfing you. They don't want you to win 10, 15, nothing, right? Which you used to be able to do in like FIFA 09, FIFA 10, some of those early iterations. They've really nerfed it that if you're getting too aggressive and you're really dominating your opponents, they slow you down because they want to make the game more evenly matched to make your opponent feel like he's still in the game. However, you can influence those things, especially if you're losing. You can start changing your tactics, really pull yourself back into the game, and it can be really frustrating for you or your opponent, whoever's on top, because you're actually punished for winning, as weird as that sounds. If you're on top and you don't know how to stop that press, that rubber banding, I guess is what it's kind of unofficially called, it can be really frustrating because you are being punished, and next thing you know, it's 3-3 or 4-3. I've been in a ton of circumstances. For example, when you go up a man when your opponent gets a red card. I've been a big believer that it changes a lot of the elements of the way the game's played, and it actually gives your opponent an advantage for being a man down, as weird as that seems, because it makes their defenders, they're only their 10 men on the field, play superhuman, and then they can counterattack and then they can hit you. So you can have 10 shots, but your goalies become superhuman, the defenders become the opponent's defenders become superhuman, the opponent's goalies become superhuman, and you just can't stop it. It's just you're trying to pepper shots on goal, and this guy's just making these fingertip saves. The balls are just bouncing to him. He's winning all these 50-50 challenges, and it can just be really frustrating, right? So that's a really broad way of looking at it, but that's essentially what's happening. From what it sounds like, your experience is very common to a lot of the people that don't play this on such a hardcore basis that they understand the little intricacies of the game. This is not a game mode that's really lends itself well to casual players. It's one that you have to really know what you're doing, or else you're going to get beat. You're going to have a ceiling. You can play probably Division 8, 9, 10 very easily. But once you start, even where I'm at, like 6 and 7, you're seeing guys that clearly don't play their tactics. They're just okay FIFA players. But once you start getting into those higher divisions, you're just going to get killed. If you don't use tactics, you better be the best player on the planet, because you're probably going to get beat by somebody who is using their tactics. So if you are playing yourself and your opponent, or sorry, you were using tactics and your Bizarro you wasn't using tactics, you'll win just on the fact that you know how to influence the game's coding. It's really unfortunate, but as much as I like the idea of being able to customize my team to play the way I want, it can be very frustrating, because once they added that in, the ability to really customize your team and the way your team plays, it became something that just people focus on abusing, right? That's what makes pros, is they understand how to abuse the game's mechanics, and it makes them better players because of it. But you add that to their ability to just be very good gamers and their dedication to figuring out the game's coding, and next thing you know, you're losing games 8, 9, nothing, right? So anyway, I hope that helped, Moog. Again, I appreciate all the kind words, and I appreciate you sending in a question. So any stuff like that, if you guys want me to answer or want my opinion on it, definitely just leave it in the comments and we'll try to address it. What you guys are seeing here is it's a very interesting game that I played here, this third game. So the first two obviously were quite one-sided. This game was, I don't want to say it was one-sided. This guy wasn't a terrible opponent, but he was the most aggressive player I've ever played with his keeper. So you guys are going to see a ton of that. A lot of plays like this where he just brings his keeper out. Even when I thought I was around him, this keeper would come back and make the save. I think it was Martinez, the Argentinian keeper that he had. But I've never seen a guy come out so aggressively with his keeper. You guys probably saw that in the earlier part of the game. It was just a very, very one-sided match in terms of my possession, in terms of me owning the ball in his final third. But his aggression with his keeper actually prevented it from being even higher. I think I had 18 shots on goal, and that's not even counting the ones where he just came out and collected the ball from my feet. So I think that was the only effort he had, that one right there in the 81st minute. But yeah, a decent opponent. He clearly understood how to use the goalie in a way that caused me problems. Like there, I was overthinking it. And it was just a very interesting tactic. I wasn't used to it. Now, the few goals that he did concede, it was because I was able to get around him. Like, you're not going to probably win when you're getting peppered that much, unless you're just taking ridiculous shots and, not really placing them anywhere. You're just kind of hitting them from afar, which is where people complain. I had 22 shots and I lost, and my opponent only had 1. But when you look at their shots, they're from, like, crazy angles, right? Against guys like this, you just have to really walk the ball into the net. It takes a certain level of skill, not to pat myself on the back, but it takes a certain level of skill, just more experience. I don't want to say skill. Like, skill came with just practice. I've been playing this for a really long time. And once you get used to really owning possession, you can really break those guys down, but you're not going to win like 10-0 because they're good enough defensively that they're not going to allow 10 goals. But credit to my opponent on that one. He was really interesting. It was a really unique way of playing. He didn't offer a whole lot going forward, but it was kind of fun to have that challenge, I guess, coming up against a guy who's like super aggressive with his keeper. It's just something I've never experienced before. So the second half of the video, we'll do in a live comm. I'm going to talk to you guys about my plan for team of the season. Team of the year. So I wish it was team of the season. I love team of the season. But team of the year is a really interesting time. I've never really focused a whole lot on it. I had about 750K or something like that. Or actually, it was 730. I had a couple headliners come through in the last 24 hours. I think I packed 3 of them. 2 of them were from my squad battle rewards and squid battles, whatever you want to call it, but squad battle rewards. And then I just packed one from some random pack that I did for the league SPCs, which are super juiced. If you guys get a chance to just kind of like, you got a little bit of extra coins and some time on your hands, I would go do the ones like the EPL one just over and over and over, because for some reason those packs are just, they're really paying out. I don't know if the drop rates on those like crappy, like prime mixed players you don't really expect to get anything from, you'll get some decent cards in it. And I ended up packing out 3 headliners. Nobody really super impressive. I think they were 3 of the more discardable ones. I think the highest rated one was the Lambord, the French striker guy, but he went for about 30k. He was a tradable card, so I ended up selling him off. But we had about 730k, and I've never been a big trader, but I decided, I was like, you know what? Scared money don't make no money. So it's just sitting in my club doing nothing. I decided I'm going to try to invest in something, and I'll show you guys at the end of the video what we invested in and why we invested in it. But it was just something that I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything with it. If I can make some money, which I'm pretty sure I am because I'm super risk averse, I wouldn't spend money on cards unless I felt really confident that it was going to do something for me. I would actually recommend putting some money into trading, and I thought I would try it out a little bit. Worst case scenario, you lose fictional coins that aren't really worth anything, if you can say that, because you do spend money on the game. But yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, I'll probably break even, to be honest with you. So that's that. We'll get to that at the end of the video. I wanted to consider live streaming my FUT Champ. So as you guys are seeing here, we're picking up wins and we're rolling through the divisions. I'm getting dangerously close to FUT Champs qualification, which I don't really understand how they reworked the game, to be honest with you, because as weird as this sounds, this is really the first online gameplay I've really done. I haven't really gotten into the game as much from an online standpoint until like most recently, the last couple weeks. So I haven't actually qualified for FUT Champs, I don't believe. So I know that I was at, I think on Thursday when I get my rewards for all these division rival games I've been playing, it will give me the last little bit that I'll need to get the 12,500 or something that you need for FUT Champs. So I was contemplating live streaming it. So I'd be interested to know what you guys think. Or do you just want to see me like record it and then put it into like one video, like the highlights like I'm doing here, and keep it, locked into the YouTube channel? So I'm kind of on the fence about that. I do like live streaming. It's a lot less work. You just go on and you just play it. However, the problem is I don't know if I can record my live stream. I know it's possible. I just don't know if I can do it because my setup is very basic. I haven't like invested a ton in really creating an official setup where I can record everything and live stream it at the same time. So it might be really simple. It might not be. I can probably look into that and figure out whether I can just do them both. I can take my live stream and just chop it up and put it into a video, but I'd be interested to know what you guys think. Because either way, I think it would be a lot of fun to just live stream it. I like getting people's live reactions to it. And you'll probably see my live reactions to it. So it's much easier to look calm and cool when I'm playing or when I'm doing like a post-com. Generally, I think I've calmed down a lot more. Like I used to get so frustrated playing FIFA, but now I just take it for what it is. It's just a game, right? And with COVID and everything going on, we've got much bigger problems than what happens with FIFA. But I do love a good rage video, I'm got to admit. So it's one of my guilty pleasures, is seeing people scream and yell, but only when it's organic. I don't want some staged yelling. We want to make sure that when people are getting mad at this game, they get mad at it. But a lot of it has to do with the things like Moog, like his comment about what happens when you're up and you think you're killing some opponent, and next thing you know, a bunch of garbage happens and they end up like coming back or beating you. So it's really frustrating in that sense. The other thing that I wanted to kind of address before we get into the live section is my plan, one of the kind of hybrid plans for Team of the Year, which we'll dissect a little bit more in terms of the schedule, which is FUT swaps. So I've been playing FUT swaps, icon swaps, excuse me. I've been playing icon swaps, but just the offline stuff. So one of my plans was to do the eventual upcoming prime icon Fernando Torres. I know he's not going to be like super meta, and he'll be a problem, I'm sure, especially once you start getting into higher divisions. He'll be really annoying to use, but I did want to get him just because I do like Fernando Torres. He's been awesome in previous FIFAs. I don't know how good the icon's going to be. I used him briefly last year. I'm assuming he's going to be really clunky. But I just need a guy who can put the ball in the net. My cams, in the way I play, my midfielder and especially my cam, who's going to be Puskas again, like as you guys can see here, he's just like an absolute rocket. He's perfect for that position, and I really want to move him back into that just because he's he's such a good dribbler, and he's got such good agility and balance and pace that I kind of want to have him do most of the legwork, and I just really need my striker to do that, just put in goals. So I was thinking about, with the investment that I made, I'm not going to have a ton of coins to be able to buy the cards that I'm probably going to need, because I'm assuming that Fernando Torres is going to be about 1.1 million total if you had none of the cards in your club, if you just had to purchase every single thing. So I would assume that it would take a whole lot of those coins that I used in order to fill in the rest of the squads, because they don't have a ton of high-rated fodder. The squads are really annoying to do because they're all like 88s and 87s and stuff like that, and you need 11 cards. You can't just like sell one card and put it into the SBC. You need like 11 cards per squad, and they're just really annoying to put together because you also need chemistry and stuff. So I was contemplating originally doing the icon swaps to get Iker Casillas. However, Iker Casillas was so poor when I used him, and everybody that I've seen use him since then just says the same thing. So I'm like, why would I go back and get the same card? It's just not going to be very useful for me. Then I thought about getting, what is the cheapest icon that you can get from a pack? I think it's like the base or mid, which is like 7. And then I'm like, I don't want to do that, because the last time I did that, I'm not a big believer in blind packs. I don't like them unless they're super cheap. Like, I don't mind some of the party bags if they're like an 83 rated squad, but I don't like dumping in a ton of like stuff into icons unless you just got like all that fodder untradeable in your club. So I don't like blind packs, because I feel like, especially with icon swaps, they're a real grind. Some people don't think they are, but like, I don't like sitting there dedicating 20, 30 hours into like getting an icon swap and then getting, I think the last one I did, I got like Filippo Inzaghi or something like that. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to go get like Nesta or Van Nistelrooy or Roy Keane or something. No offense to Roy Keane fans or Van Nistelrooy fans, but there's just a ton of guys that like I do not want. Like, when I was looking at the icons, like there's like 10 or 15 that are really, really like meta, and then I would say there's maybe 20 more that are usable. And when I say usable, I would say like you can put them in and you could use it, but realistically they're probably not even going to make your starting squad. Like, a good example of that would be Henrik Larsson. I like Henrik Larsson, but I probably won't be using Henrik Larsson. And yeah, I just would like to be able to use this for something that I want to actually have into my squad. So my final outcome, or where I'm at right now, is I'm going to put in the 5 icon swaps for the 83 by 25 and use that as fodder for Team of the Year. So that is my plan right now. I think that's a decent plan. When I say Team of the Year, sorry, I meant the prime icon Fernando Torres. If I use it for Team of the Year, I use it for Team of the Year. But it's kind of 50-50, because the prime icon Fernando Torres is probably going to be out for about like a month or two at the very most, probably a month, but it gives you a lot of time to do it. So during that time, Team of the Year will probably come out, so I'll have a little bit of time to kind of look at some of the options. I'm expecting some really high-rated SBCs to come out. Team of the Year is a really popular time for EA. They're going to dump a bunch of money, or not dump a bunch of money, they're going to dump a bunch of like cards into the game, so people dump a bunch of money into it. So I expect some really good stuff to be coming out during that time, so I'll weigh my options. Worst case scenario, if I don't like any of the cards that are part of Team of the Year or the SBCs, I'll just put it into that Fernando Torres. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Let's get into the live section. All right, guys, so this is the live section. So the lighting's starting to go down a little bit here in Vancouver, so hopefully I'm not getting too much just lighting from my screen and you guys can still see me. What I wanted to do right now first is address the Team of the Year calendar. So this is courtesy of FUT Bible. So it's an account that I follow. I think they're on Instagram as well as Twitter as well. So they've been quite good about leaks. I know some people aren't a big fan of leaks, so hopefully this isn't leaking the players so much, but this is just more of a timeline standpoint. But if you don't like leaks, then you can just, cover your ears. But just from a timeline standpoint, so obviously the attacking, midfield, goalkeeper, and defending nominees came out today. All the nominees have been announced. The voting starts tomorrow on the 10th, so I'm not sure how they do their votes for Team of the Year, but usually it's just an online link and then you can share it and everything like that, which we'll do. And then the voting ends a week later on the 17th. Then, as of the 21st, is when attackers go into packs, midfielders go in 2 days later on the 23rd, and then goalkeepers and defenders on the 25th. And then the 27th is when all 11 are in packs, and then they usually release like a 12th man and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if they're going to do a nominees release or anything like that. A couple years ago they did, and I don't remember if they had like a 1 point increase, but they released some of the blue cards, so it was kind of cool to have it. If you're going to use a base version, at least have a cool base blue. But it's not super important. People care more about the actual team. Now the team itself is going to be really interesting, whether they put Ronaldo and Messi. They usually find a way to get them both in. I think last year they had Messi in the squad, and then the 12th man was Ronaldo. I wouldn't be in shock if both of them were in it this year, or if not one of them, then the other one was a 12th man. But they'll figure out a way to get them both into it. The attackers are going to be crazy, crazy expensive, guys. So, like, you got to have the millions and millions of coins to be able to afford one of those. And then the midfielders, they can be hit and miss depending on who's in it. If Kimmich, for example, is in it, he'll probably be $1 million something, just a little over $1 million. But if you got like a De Bruyne, he'll be like 2 or 3 for the start. And then defenders are usually the cheapest. The keeper is almost habitually the cheapest player. But Team of the Year, I've never actually packed anything, so I don't save packs. I'm not a big fan of that. It's just not something I want to do. I've been watching some like streamers and stuff like that. They've got like north of 2,000 packs. It ain't that serious, guys. It ain't that serious. So like the amount of time and effort you'd have to put in to save 2,000 packs, to me, like maybe I'll hit a Team of the Year, but that's a lot of grinding, right? And I'm not that type of guy. Like, I'm not judging anybody who is. It's just not the way I like to play. So my plan of attack is I have invested some money. So as you guys can see here, I've only got 19,000 coins left. The player that I decided to invest in was just to make a little bit of extra money. My coins weren't doing anything. It wasn't deliberately for Team of the Year. It was just because right now fodder is at an all-time low. So like I said, I'm not a trader, so consider the source here. I'm not going to tell you it's a good time to trade, it's not a good time to trade. I just believe it's a good time if you have any money and you want to spend it, not money, but if you have any coins and you want to spend it because it's not doing anything, now's a good time to buy whatever you want to invest in. So what I invested in is this guy right here, Toni Kroos. So the reason I invested in Toni Kroos is right now he is going for about 21, 22K. So the reason I invested in him is he's 88 rated. So any squad that they release that's going to drive up prices is going to be a really significant card. So low rated fodder like 83s and 84s, there's so much of it, and they're so easy to come by because every time they release like megas and ultimate, or sorry, not megas, but jumbo rare players packs and ultimate packs, they have 83 and 84 rated minimums. I think it's an 83 rated minimum. So you have to have at least 183. So the 83s are basically almost all discard across the board. So if you actually look at my transfer list, I'll have a bunch of duplicate 83s because they're the most common cards that get packed, and they're going to remain that way. So Lamar, Canales, Matip, Azpilicueta, Volin, you guys have probably all packed these guys a ton of times. Icardi, all the 82s and stuff. This stuff, it won't even sell. I think I've put them up twice and they haven't even sold. Maybe not these ones, but there was like Carlos Vela. I continuously put this guy up. He doesn't sell. So that is going to remain that way. There's going to have to be an SBC that is dedicated specifically for Carlos Vela, where you need a Mexican player, and it's got a fairly high rating or something like that for that card to be worth anything. And even if that card comes out, it's probably not going to be massive in demand just because the Mexicans are a very like niche nation. There's not a ton of players that people really need. But let's say they did a player of the month, Carlos Vela, or I don't know, some SBC that just required a player from MLS or something like that. He would have to go into it, but there's so much supply on the market that I think it's irrelevant to even invest in those 83s or 84s. 84s maybe a little bit more, but 83s it's going to take a lot for them to be worth anything. 88s, on the other hand, these cards are not as easy to pack, but at the same time, any SBC that comes out, let's say the Fernando Torres, for example. I was talking to you guys about how I want to do that one. If that SBC comes out, you're going to have high rated teams in it, right? So it's going to have 89 rated teams, let's say, but probably 88, 87s, 86s. Toni Kroos is going to be one that's going to be needed for any SBC that comes out that's super high rated. If they did like a Player of the Month Messi, or if they did a Player of the Month Ronaldo or something like that, you need high rated cards. There's only so many 88 rated cards in the game, especially ones that aren't special cards, right? So base cards, there's only a handful of them, and this card is at an all-time low. It's easy to link. He's German, so you could link him with a Bundesliga team, or he's from the La Liga, so it's easy to link him with a La Liga team, and he's 20k. I have never seen in my life an 88 rated card worth 20k, right? Like, maybe, I take that back. It's probably possible. It's probably happened, but it's an anomaly. This card is not going to be much cheaper than this. So if we look at his price on the market, there might be some that are in that 20 range. There you go. 21 maybe. There you go. So there's a bunch at 21, right? So basically what I did was, at the time that I invested at a poor time. So it was like 20, it was at like 130. So it was like right at peak hours, but he was still 22. So it is not unrealistic to think that if SBCs start coming out for Team of the Year, or even Icon SBCs, this card could easily go to 30. Easy, right? So there's a couple times where I saw it spike to 30. The demand is never going to be so massive that there's just like a zillion of them, right? It's an 88 rated card. You need him for almost any SBC you do, and he's only going to go up. 20k is his ceiling, is his floor. He's not going to drop much more. The lowest I think he's ever gone is 18, and man, if you invested him at 18, you're just going to roll in the dough. So I've got about 32, 33 of this guy. Let's say he, fingers crossed he doubles and he goes up to 40, because there's like 5 or 10 SBCs that come out that people want to do. Once some of the prime player SBCs come out, like let's say they put out like a mid, God forbid, like a mid Hullet or something like that. I know they won't do that, but like Roberto Carlos or Carlos Alberto or a Kaká or something like that, you'll need a bunch of squads that require this guy. It's not unrealistic to think that he could go to 30, 35, 40, right? You could double your coins by just doing that. So that's going to be my investment. It was doing nothing, and I've been watching enough like streams where I see guys just racking in millions and millions of coins, and they're not even doing anything that complicated. So I don't recommend necessarily investing in Toni Kroos myself, just because that's where I invested, so I don't want you guys stepping on my toes, but that's the type of thought process you guys need to think. There's been nothing out lately, so fodder's at an all-time low. Go out and buy like some 86, 87, 88 rated cards from good leagues that have good nations that are at an all-time low, and you could see them being needed for an SBC. I think that's a really smart investment. I would highly recommend doing that, just because it's a slam dunk. So that's going to be it, guys, for today's episode. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me. While Team of the Year comes out, we'll just start doing a couple more videos. We'll start rolling through some more divisions, and maybe we'll get into some FUT champs for the next couple episodes. So any comments, any questions, you guys, leave them down below. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, guys, take care. Peace.